Hello, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Williamsburg Area School District Board of Directors for October 27th, 2020. And roll call today, we see our last person coming in. So we have, as soon as Ms. Sullivan walks through the door, we have everybody here today, nobody on Zoom, so we'll just record it as all present. And now we'll say the pledge.
The last thing I heard, she didn't have it.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have no changes to the agenda, my understanding. So if we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now on to the minutes. Anybody find anything in the minutes from the last meeting? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Dr. Royer, for a second. Thank you. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Dr. Yep. Okay, thank you. Mr. Wenger is going to abstain from approving this. Dr. Klein, Superintendent Report.
All right. I just want to let you know, we are in week 9 of school since we started August 31st. November 2nd actually ends the marking period. So honestly, I was surprised we made 2 weeks and we're in week 9. So that's a great thing. As of now, we have 4 current cases in the district of the virus, 2 students, 2 adults. We do have about 51 students quarantined due to exposure, either from someone in school or someone out of school. And we also have 2 adults right now, I believe, on quarantine. I think that's what we had on our numbers up to date. And believe it or not, every day it changes. The numbers. And also just remember those that return from being positive or exposed are no longer a risk of spreading the virus. I just want to reiterate that so people understand that. I want to thank our staff and students for enduring the protocols and the standards that are in place. Without those protocols, without following those, we would likely not be here right now or in school at all. Another big thank you to our parents and our guardians. I don't think they realize how much of an impact they're having by following the protocols. Once in a while, we get some pushback, but for the most part, I think the parents have been pretty cooperative. Their adherence and patience with the protocols is making a huge impact on our being in school. Parents have been notifying the schools about students being exposed outside of school or testing positive. So they are, again, they're helping to keep us in school. And to me, that's a big deal. So anyhow, that's kind of an update of where we're at with the virus.
Okay, thank you. Having some cord problems here. You haven't been here, this has been easy. Okay, let's try again. Okay, next item, public comment. Anybody want to say anything today of the people who are here? Okay, if not, moving on then to board reports. Anybody have anything from any of the committees they'd like to report? Did anybody meet? Nobody?
Policy.
Policy?
Oh my God, I didn't bring the book.
Well,
Oh,
we-
I apologize.
we have some things that we put on for tonight to move to the next level. And a lot of the stuff is coming straight down from School Board Association. We have some that we're working on long-term, and November's probably going to be a long meeting.
Yeah, because the set that you'll probably get will be all pandemic policies that'll be in place. I sent the committee, I don't know, there are probably 7 to 10. I don't know.
There's a
There are
lot.
There's a lot.
There's
Maybe
There's a
more
lot.
than that. So it gave everybody a chance to have a little time instead of doing them this month and then putting a whole bunch in front of you. It'd just give us, November will be pandemic month, policy month, so anyhow.
Okay, these are all second readings today.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I hope you guys can be here. Dr. McCallum and Mr. Taylor, I hope you guys can be here at the policy meeting.
Cindy, what's the date of that?
I don't know.
It's
It's the 10th.
Six?
the 6th, 1
That's
o'clock
Friday.
That's
Oh,
right.
policy meeting.
policy.
I'll send it to you.
Thank you. And I apologize. I'm very sorry. My book's on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think it's the sixth, I think it's the fourth.
4.
The 4th.
I won't be
That's okay, I got it.
here. Okay.
How's Linda?
Okay,
You can tell my orders.
anything else as far as board reports? Okay, if not, we'll move into the presentation we're going to have tonight, which is concerning our hybrid program. Dr. Sterner-Hein.
Okay, thank you very much for giving us an opportunity. You actually have the entire presentation within your board docs. Nick is going to work with us as well as working with the group. I have Mr. Taylor here who's going to talk a little bit about the survey that he conducted with the middle school hybrid families. And then I had asked our hybrid only teachers to come and do a short presentation in terms of what they're doing. So we have Shimei O'Hara representing kindergarten. We have Mary Crum with first grade, and we have Heather Sprenkle with third grade. So there's a lot of bells and whistles to this presentation. However, we're just going to briefly highlight like some of the almost we're calling it a show and tell of what we've been doing. And then if anyone on the board has additional questions or would like to meet with us, we definitely would follow up. So Nick, if you could go to slide number 5, because some of this is repetitive. So like this is basically an update from September. So some of the information is just essentially the same. Just wanted to clarify, when we're talking about the WASD hybrid model, we were designing it to be a bridge for our learners to return to the traditional classroom, and based on our numbers, that is actually happening. And as well as to serve as an option for extended absences created by COVID-19. However, at this point, with the individuals who have focused solely on hybrid, what they're essentially building is hopefully what we will refer to as WASD cyber in the future. In other words, taking their programming, their instruction, their means of figuring out how to do things, and then definitely incorporating that into modules that will be utilized to a fuller capacity for a cyber only option, hopefully for next school year under the First Choice Learning Network. So on to the next slide, Nick. Just up to date right now, our school population is 4,197 learners total. In the traditional classroom since August 31st, we have 3,335 learners. We are down to 862 learners who are on hybrid. I think the last time I reported, it was 965. However, the outside cyber numbers continue to climb. I believe the last time I reported, it was 256. It's up to 284. It was actually higher, but we had 14 withdrawals that either returned to our district or withdrew to another district. So that's a number that we're continuing to monitor, and obviously we'll continue to try to work at bringing those learners back to WASD. Next slide, Nick. In terms of the update, and again, I know it's very hard to see, but all this information is in your board docs. It tells you, it gives you an overview every week in terms of the elementary numbers, the middle school numbers, the high school numbers. Now, the high school numbers are a little misleading in the sense that it's not 351 students that are out the entire day. It's basically 351 students who are using some form of APEX. So they are essentially running an A-B schedule. So they may be taking maybe 2 or 3 periods or blocks of the day with APEX, but then they're in school for the other portion of the time. So it's a combination of both. So there you see the October enrollment. Next slide, Nick, please. So overall, just a general update. Oh, go back to the other one, please, Nick. Thank you. As a follow-up, that we were concerned that some of our hybrid students were not engaged and not logging on. So Officer Gordon, as well as the building principals, have completed a series of home visitations with hybrid learners. We also conducted, or WAMS did conduct, a parent survey of hybrid learners, parents and guardians, and Mr. Taylor is going to highlight that. The 4th and 5th grade hybrid learners will be transitioning to new teachers on November 2nd. And overall, as a district, we have looked at our building schedules, and we are preparing schedules if we would have to go virtual. I'm not saying that we are going virtual. Anytime we prepare for something, there's usually a belief that, oh, it's going to happen next week. But we recognize that in order to be fully prepared, we have to have schedules in place that would both have synchronous and asynchronous learning for our learners if we would have to close for a period of time. And with that, I will introduce Mr. Aaron Taylor. He's just going to briefly update you. He had conducted a survey of WAMS families, and he had some interesting feedback from his families.
Okay, good evening. And I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. I promise Dr. Sterner on that. So as Dr. Sterner said, we did do a survey after about 30 days within our hybrid model. Our goal was basically to improve where we were with the model. We realized that we had did our best job putting it together, but we also knew that we were really missing some time to prepare as much as we possibly could. So our goal was to get feedback from parents, to have an opportunity to improve, and also for us to plan a little bit more in the future for the rest of the year and maybe into next year to look at who was going to finish and who was going to continue with our hybrid. So just a couple of stats from the actual survey to take you through real quick. 65% of our parents report that students are taking at least 4 hours or more to complete hybrid work. So our goal was to try to match our 4 hours of core instruction. We're only giving the core instruction right now to our students until mid-year. Then we were going to add a couple courses that were required to do so, such as PE. But we wanted to make sure that we weren't assigning too much, but we also wanted to make sure that our expectations for our students were very similar to what we were offering our students at school. So we feel like we're doing a pretty good job at hitting that mark there. I continue to have some conversations with some parents that the work may be a little bit longer than that, maybe a little bit shorter than that. And that is the struggle sometimes trying to meet every student's basically their level based on how they're performing in school. 87% of our parents report the recording of live lessons enhances the lesson's effectiveness. So that's something that we wanted to make sure that was part of our hybrid approach, was offering that same lesson that our students are getting in school to our students who are at home. 80% of our parents report they know how to access their students' Schoology courses. This is the one place that we probably, if we had it to do over again and had more time, which would have been nice, we would have did more onboarding for our students and actually spending a lot more time training not only our students but our parents so they were adequately prepared also, is how to do all those things within Schoology, how to access their assignments, how to do those things, where we spend a lot of time. I'll touch a little bit later on, and from a staff standpoint, trying to standardize all that. 63% of our parents report they understand how to submit a tech ticket for support. At the beginning, that obviously was a struggle. Obviously not necessarily on the Waynesboro side of things, but some of the programs we were using, just because of the volume, we realized that we were dealing with some tech issues. But since then, those things have been working very well. 80% of our parents report having an unresolved tech ticket. Thought this was important, that it's a pretty low number. We were able to follow up with those parents, fix those things. So I thought it was important to put out there for next team that that's a pretty significant low number compared or considering all the different things that we were experiencing that first week or 2 weeks of school. Nick, if you could go to the next slide. 92% of our parents believe their students will finish for this school year within the hybrid model. I thought this was important for the remainder of the year, preparing, knowing how we need to change schedules, basically looking at what that trend is. So 92% is a pretty significant number. So looking at that basically we'll continue with the students that we have there. We are getting ready to actually transition a fairly decent size, about 20 students back here at the start of the second market period next Tuesday. So our numbers will come down a little bit, but I think we're going to be pretty consistent from there on out. 79% of our parents report their students will most likely continue the hybrid model for next year. So something so that, or I guess like Dr. Sternheim pointed out, whatever the cyber model that we're going to offer, they're looking like they're going to choose that for upcoming years. 25% of the parents report not attending school may have an adverse effect on their child's mental health. I know I've read numerous articles about the concern right now. We are experiencing it. And part of the struggle is being able to basically get our hands on those students because they're not in the building. We can't offer a lot of those services such as the therapy sessions with Laurel Life and things like that we typically would. So that has been a struggle, and we're trying to work through that the best we can. So actually, that was one of the larger things that we wanted to measure from this, is just to get an idea, since we're not seeing those students, how big of an effect that is. 47% of our parents report having live instruction each day would be beneficial, while 33% say no, it would not be beneficial. So I know that's a big conversation we're having. Basically, if we do close, or in the future, do we want to offer live instruction? It is interesting that a lot of our students and our parents are actually saying they like the asynchronous model, basically where it is not live, because they can control their time and their day. As we do have numerous students who are doing different things, so they can control their time. So once again, looking at that first choice umbrella of trying to meet all those students' individual needs, I thought that once again was interesting based on the data. Nick, if you go to the next slide, please. So I'm not going to actually play this, but I just included it in the PowerPoint. If you have an opportunity to actually log in and take a look at it, it's actually Mr. Carlson's class, one of our hybrid teachers. I think it's a really good opportunity for you to see some of the things that we're doing with not only our hybrid students, but our students in school. It sort of goes under our academic part of first choice, giving our students choice basically in how they're choosing to complete assignments, how they're choosing to be assessed. But even now doing some live actual lessons for those students who are at home, basically in the hybrid model, giving them that opportunity. So I wanted to share that at least so you can take that at your own leisure there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Taylor. All right. Mrs. O'Hara, you are up. This is the opportunity to showcase what we've been doing
Good
with our
evening.
kindergarten students.
Yes, good evening. Thank you all for having me. I am teaching the kindergarten hybrid students for the whole district. So that includes all 4 buildings. And it's been quite a big task to undertake, but I do enjoy it. I can tell you that I do enjoy it. It's a lot of work, but teaching is a lot of work. This slide just shows a couple of the slides from my slide deck. I do all my slides in Google Slides. There's 1 deck a day for parents, and they just can work down with their learner through the slides. I found this is the easiest way for parents to manage and students to manage. So one of the biggest things is trying to connect with those kindergarten learners over the computer and try to build some type of community for them when they've never been in school themselves. So I have morning meetings that they attend. I had to split the buildings up at first. There were too many people on the calls, and people were getting kicked out. And so I did that. I split them up, and pretty much they have a live morning meeting if they choose to attend at least 2 times a week, possibly three times a week. So that's one way that we really can build some community with those learners. They really enjoy it. You can tell that they're happy to be on the call. They're interacting. I do a lot of interactive writing or math types of things in our morning meeting. And just things like a message. I make sure that there's a message every day like I would in the classroom that's pre-recorded, and students are being the superstar each day, just like I would do in the classroom. I just record all of that, and they have their journal and they do those things. And I just talked with a parent today on one of the calls, and she was saying her son was so excited when he came up as the superstar, just like they would be in the classroom. So that's been a really big part of this journey, trying to build that community with learners. And so Nick, you could go to the next slide. These are just a couple slides. Dr. Sterner-Hyde wanted us to just give a few, slides to help you understand what we're doing. So I do basically what I would do in the classroom. I try my best to present that to the learners at home. And so they're having a poem every week like we would do in the classroom. They're using Kami to find certain things on the poem every day. And I have them working like they would in the classroom, and they can use Epic, trying to build that 3 ways to read just like we would in the classroom. So you can go to the next slide, Nick. We also are participating in the Mr. Rogers lessons, as all of the other kindergarten learners are in the district. So these are just a couple slides that just show you how I've used an episode, and then maybe they respond on a Flipgrid topic. I'm also using Mrs. Nemzik's videos that she's making for them about breathing strategies and different techniques. So I'm incorporating that for the learners at home as well. So they're getting that. I can't, just a side note, I can't watch every specific episode that they do. I am part of the Educators Neighborhood with Mrs. Nemzik from the Fred Rogers Center. However, because it's, you can't tape an episode and then push that recording out to others. So I have to find like PBS Kids and some different things. So I'm not always on the exact same lesson, but I am using the model with the people at home. And these are just a couple of my math slides. I try to use the EDM website when I can and do recordings, just consistency of things we would do in the classroom. And you could go to the next slide. I also use boom cards every day with my learners. This is honestly something I paid for myself because it's self-checking, and you can give activities and it self-checks, and then I can just go in and read the reports. And my learners really love it. It's like playing a game for them. And then I don't have to go out on the web and just spend hours finding games. You can go to the next one. And this is just a slide just highlighting a big part of what I do is educate parents as to how they need to work with their learner, because clearly they are an extension of me. And so I just try to spend time making a video to explain to them how to do a lot of things. And then the last slide is just a few pieces of work from some of my learners. So, and that's all I have. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, Mrs. Crum, first grade.
Hi, good evening, board. Good evening, everybody. So yes, I'm a first grade teacher at Hooverville. So I'm 1 out of 2 of the first grade all day hybrid. I service students from Summit View, Mary, and Hooverville. And I currently have 18 students. Now I have to look at my little print, and I can't put my glasses on because it fogs up. So I usually don't wear my glasses. Okay, so what do I provide for my students every day with digital lessons? I start with calendar, and we do the basic calendar. We count the days that we've had online learning with money and 10s and 1s. I go over an agenda for the day for them. And right now I'm also incorporating highlighting student work that, you know, it's really standing out, or just fun things that they've done, like they've decorated digital pumpkin. So I have that up as artwork, even on a digital bulletin board that I showcase. Math, I provide math lessons, phonics, word work, spelling. This is everyday reading, writing, and content. Additional things that I also do on Tuesdays, I provide differentiated reading for my struggling students, my on-level students, and my enrichment students. I can do that in reading and phonics. And I also try to provide them with some social and emotional activities that are optional throughout the week, through like read alouds that they can go in and listen to, videos. I also give them movement activities that they can do for brain break activities, independent reading on Epic, which is a digital platform that go on and read, and my kids just love it. They've blown me away with how much they're reading. And I also provide like virtual libraries for them to go into and to read, and artwork so they can get their art in their library. Currently right now, I do like live lessons and check-ins with small groups. I do one-on-one, and I do large group like review activities with them. You can see like I provide like an academic board daily. So it looks like that. It's very kid friendly. I've gotten lots of positive feedback from parents. So the kids just click on the picture, a slide deck comes up for each subject, and they work their way through the slide deck, and everything, it's like a springboard. So everything goes off of that. There's links, they can go to something, click out, come right back. And I've had parents say that it's so child friendly that no sooner do they are getting their coffee and getting something to eat and they're back at their seat, their child's already through the calendar themselves. When the Google Classroom got on the calendar, went through it, and they're on to their first subject. So very kid friendly. Let's see. Oh, one thing I do for motivation is during my calendar time and agenda, I do a hidden picture. I tell them what's hiding in the lessons, and I get that off of their interests. I did an interest inventory at the beginning of the year. So if someone likes, I don't know, Spider-Man, I had one day. So Spider-Man's hiding somewhere in the lesson. Sometimes it'll be on the slide, or it'll be like in the lesson. It was actually in my math video. And I'll say who that, had an interest in Spider-Man. And then I'll, so just building a community and tell them, see who can find Spider-Man. Okay, Nick, you want to go on to the next one, please? This is just my writing. I did this a few weeks ago, and it was pretty rigorous. I was a little worried about them, but they just rose to the occasion. I mean, they did a whole story, went through their checklist, and this is like a student's writing that they produced, and they put it in Seesaw, which is a digital portfolio. And that day they could either read it to me, or they can like do the audio and read it on Seesaw, or they could sign up and read it to the teacher live, like did like an author time. So, okay, Nick, if we can move on. This is some of my reading slides, some for my enrichment. And you notice over there where it says above they are readers, that is how many books my kids have read on Epic independently since the beginning of school, and how many minutes they've spent. So we get little badges, and the badges just started flying into my email like every other day. And then I put them up in a virtual classroom. So it's just amazing. And then when you have the time, the video is just one of my students he struggles. And he did really well on a reading that I was taking a running record on. And when I wanted to transition from that reading into a game, he didn't want to stop. He wanted to keep reading. So I was like, okay. So we kept reading. It was awesome. Okay, Nick, go ahead. Oh, I don't know if you want to, we can go past that. And they're scientists. We've gone through the whole scientific method together. We've did living and non-living, and we've done apple experiments where they've done them at home too, just like we would do in the classroom. I did it in my classroom, they did it at home. Okay, Nick, I think that might be it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Choose the wrong font color, it looks like. Hello, I'm Heather Sprenkle. I teach 3rd grade at Fairview and Hooverville Hybrid. And what's going well for me is that I've had 100% work completion almost every day now for about 2 weeks. So that's exciting. And I have learned, especially through my parent-teacher conferences, that a lot of my kids are working independently. There's a lot of independent working, which is okay, but I have tried to change the way I'm teaching, and I think that has helped with that, just making sure that they are getting through all of the lessons and the assignments, because sometimes like they would turn them in and it would be blank or it wouldn't be completed. So that has helped a lot, me changing like the way I'm teaching. And I've changed that because now I record all of my lessons, all of my core lessons, and then I go over every single assignment in my recording. And that has helped a lot, like with the modeling and the guided practice that I would be giving them in the face-to-face classroom as well. So that has helped a lot, I think, with the work completion, because now I'm getting better results back from my students. So that's a positive. And let's see here. I'm also getting less emails troubleshooting, so that's exciting because I was at 40 students when we first started, and I'm down to 22, which is like a normal class size. And that is very exciting because now I'm better able to individualize and enrich some students and reach out to different kids that need my help. And I really love using like the Go Guardian with that too, because I can check in individually with them. And I have about 4 or 5 kids every day that I faithfully check in with to make sure that they're getting all of their work done, because I know that most parents are not working with them. So I'm like, hey, you have to have this done by 1 o'clock. So I'm going to call you back at 1 o'clock and I want to see this done. And that has helped a lot too. So my work completion is so much better and the quality is there, which is good. Okay, next slide. You can click on those links if you want to, but they're there. So the way I have my classroom set up is I'm using like the Google Classroom, but I'm not putting my lessons in a slide deck. I clean out my classroom every week and I keep all of the lessons in there just for the week by subject. And for me, that has helped, I think, my students to keep better track of what's finished and what's not finished. And it also has helped my teammates because they are better able to reuse my post, like when they have students that are out for 14 days. Because then if a kid's going to be out for unit 1, week 3, day 2, they can go in and find that lesson in my Google Classroom and post that to the student. So they're not missing anything and they can reuse my post. So I haven't changed my format there. And for me, it's working for my students and it's working for my team. So that's what I'm doing. So they're under the subjects and you can see that I have them laid out there. That was from last week. Okay, next slide. Okay, so that's just one example. And this goes back to how I changed how I'm teaching and delivering my instruction. I had to kind of change my instructions and only give them like a couple sentences, but all the directions are in the video to make sure that they're getting all the information and not having to sit there and read 12, 14 sentences about what I'm asking them to do. So all of my instructions are in the videos, which I think has helped a lot with my students because they are working mostly independent. And I do use like the math journal and the Wonders books. I use all of those consumables because they've all been sent home. Okay, next slide. Thank you. So this is just one example of many of how I combine the books that they have at home, like their math journal, with my digital lessons. So I use a combination of all the tech tools out there and then my Google Slides, and then I use the consumable books too. So it's usually a blended combination, but it's one assignment that they need to turn in for each subject. And when I combined everything, that also helped just with making sure that all my students were getting all of their work done and not missing a slide or missing a page or missing something. So that's good. Next slide. Thank you. Okay, so this was a weekly log that I put together, and you can click on Belle and she will take you over to the Bitmoji reading log. And I was hearing from parents at my parent-teacher conferences how they were having a hard time motivating their children, okay, which is a normal parent thing. And so to try to help with that, I tried to motivate them with this log that is fun and it's supposed to be personalized. And I kind of go with the philosophy of read anything, anywhere. So it doesn't just have to be a book. It could be the back of the cereal box. It could be anything. And then they're giving their books shout outs and it's shared with their peers. So there's a Flipgrid in there, a Jamboard, a seesaw, a slide. There's all kinds of things on that link if you do decide to click on it and see it. But I just tried to motivate them to just want to share their books and not have to report how many minutes that they read. So it's just another motivational technique to get them reading independently. Next. Okay. So this goes back to my new virtual prize box. I just started this a week ago, and so far it's been going really well. The kids love it. So they're earning points every day for what they're doing. Again, because I have third graders and they are working mostly independent, I'm trying to motivate them. And so they get a point per day for getting all of their work done. And then for their fact fluency, and then also the reading log and showing up to small group on time. So for me, I'm doing my 9 o'clock morning meeting and that's live. And then I have my 10 and 12 o'clock, which are small group lessons every day in reading and math. I do 30 minutes each. And I do that every single day. So I am doing a little bit more live, but I'm still doing all of the recorded lessons too. And for me, that's worked. And from talking with the parents at parent-teacher conferences, a lot of the parents really like that because they're getting the small group and they're not getting the whole group live. It's the small group live with all of the recorded lessons. And many of my students have said, and the parents have said too, that they watch my recordings over and over and over again if they don't get it. So that's been really beneficial. And I think it's a shorter amount of time because my videos are only 15, 20 minutes. And so they're not getting distracted by the live session being recorded for a core lesson. So that's what I'm doing for my motivation. Next, I think that might be it, but I'm not sure. Oh, okay, so last one here. So Go Guardian and Google Meet. This is something I started about 2 weeks ago. So as you know, Go Guardian's kind of been hit or miss sometimes. And I started using both. So what I'm doing is I'm using my Google Meet for my small group as if they were sitting around my guided reading table. And I have all my students on there. That's my teaching tool. That's my chat box, my polls, ask and answer questions, all those teaching tools on Google Meet I'm using. But then I have Go Guardian in the background. And so then I'm able to see, okay, I know she's on page 4 and he's on page 5. And this short little video I did just yesterday, randomly, I assigned to them a seesaw that was on their level, and it was a spelling sort for a vowel pattern. And I could see their work, all of them working at the same time, just as I would at a small group table on Go Guardian while I'm seeing them on Google Meet. So if they have questions, I'm here. I can say, hey, that's not right. Go back and fix that. Think about this. So using both of those tools has been awesome. And I know it's kind of mind-blowing, to think about using both of them. But the 2 screens and the Go Guardian and the Google Meet is like hitting the jackpot. It is fantastic. So I think it's great. I think they're both wonderful things to have. I just, I use one for one purpose and one for the other purpose. So that's been tremendous. So any questions?
You do 3rd grade, do you jump what schools?
Fairview and Hooverville. Yes, there's another 3rd grade teacher that's Summit View and Maori. So, and I think he has around 18 kids. It's Connor McFarland. We do things a little different though. His is a little bit different than mine, but we're teaching the same thing, it's just different. So, anybody else?
Thank you very much. And we'll just open up, anybody can ask any of the teachers anything.
Sure. Let us know.
Actually, I would like to make a comment. Basically, hybrid was explained to us, except I still had no idea what was happening here in Waynesboro. And I know that you teachers have been overloaded this year, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart, the time you have taken to explain to us what's really going on in your classroom. So
I think it's
appreciate
very, very impressive.
yes.
Specific questions, anybody, for anybody?
So that basically concludes the presentation. I thought it was better. I described it as a show and tell because they did provide all their materials to me, but I knew that they would do a better job at explaining it. And so all those links are live links. And so, whenever you have the time, you can go through and view it at a different time. But I do want to thank you so much. I know you guys are, very passionate about it. And interestingly enough, I believe all 3 of them are also part of our, do they know that, November 11th in service training? They know that. Okay, we basically came up with a listing of it was under first choice core team, like problem solving 101. So obviously, oftentimes our educators are our best instructors, trainers. So they have a whole list of problems that we had and how they were able to overcome them. And then we have our hybrid teachers teaching those sessions for our teachers across the board just to sign up. So there's like 2 different separate sessions. But yeah, I was in Heather's classroom last week and she was showing me about the monitors and the idea of what she's doing with Go Guardian and Google Meet. It's just an example of problem solving that we can read a manual, we can go to the training, but it's trial and error. And these people are very passionate, and I do appreciate all the effort, and our learners are definitely benefiting. And so as we plan for the future, obviously all this great work that you're doing is going to be part of something even greater in the Waynesbury School District. So thank you.
I have a question. I think I heard you say, or one of you say, that when the kids are put on quarantine, are they in your school, separate school, are they taking part in hybrid, or are they having different?
So for my class,
No.
okay. So for my kids, so my team, they just take my post out of my Google Classroom. So whatever, like if they're starting, multiplication lesson 1, I label my lessons multiplication lesson 1, or it's equal groups, or it's very, like I say exactly what's being taught in that lesson, so that if another teacher is on that lesson and is picking it out, she can just use my same video and my same work and everything. So she can refind that, like to her kids that are out.
The teacher of record still is responsible for those children, those learners. But the
Yeah, we're
hybrid
not-
teachers are sharing their classroom so that they do.
We're not reassigning anyone. So in other words, just as like a, let's say, Wendy Kane. Let's say Wendy Kane, Mrs. Kane has a student out for 14 days. She will ask Mrs. Sprenkle for her material in order to front load, because they're, from a pacing perspective, they're relatively equal. And then that way, that information can be pushed out via Google Classroom. Or, because everyone's putting everything in Google Classroom at this point. So it's just a matter of sharing materials.
Okay, but I'm asking specifically in the district, are all kids that are put on quarantine getting this?
In kindergarten, first, second, and third, those materials are being shared out, not in fourth and fifth. The fourth and fifth, there might have been some.
We can talk about that, because that's what happened.
At the middle school,
I'm not talking about.
okay.
I would say that as far as kindergarten is concerned, I have to have 4 different Google Classrooms, one for each building. And so every kindergarten teacher is a teacher in my Google Classroom for their building. So if they so choose to go into my Google Classroom, they can repost or open my decks and just copy certain slides if they want to. So it is accessible for them, and it's up to them whether they are using it. I've encouraged them to use it. I spend all day, every day doing it. They're in person with students. It's a lot of work. So they have the access to it if they choose to use it.
Mr. Taylor, you were going to explain the middle school.
Yeah.
What-
The middle school, our students who are 14, they go into our hybrid. So, yeah, so if a student is on 7B, they would go to our 7A team because they're our hybrid team. So all of our students, especially now that we're really having 24 days, 14 students, because the parent in the home is exposed to their children now, obviously. So every one of our students are going into.
Thank you.
So when students are submitting work, are we using one consistent platform to store all this work, or is it depending upon what the teacher's using? Like when they're uploading work for you, where is that being kept?
All in Google Classroom.
Right, I know. So you're all using Seesaw?
I use both. Depending on Google Classroom.
Yeah.
I try to keep all of my grades consistent. So because I grade in 3rd grade, all of my grade assignments are usually like quizzes or Google form or something that's going to be graded for me so it takes on time. But if it's not, then it's in a small group. So everything else is usually like participation grade or classwork grade, which is usually like Seesaw or Google Classroom like Google Slides and things like that. So everything's sorted out.
So we don't, obviously, once we get through this, I might have a lot more questions.
Sure.
So should we ask any questions through you? Because we haven't got a chance to click on anything yet.
Okay.
So all these links are live?
Mhm.
Okay.
I mean, it's just a sample of what they do. So sure, like any specific questions, like why don't you reach out to me and then we will schedule. And I believe the recommendation is maybe just schedule a separate meeting.
The what?
Maybe schedule a separate meeting with and like if you have numerous questions or whatever, maybe we can just set up a separate meeting or.
No, I just didn't know who to answer. No.
Okay.
I may not have any, but
Okay.
I just didn't know who to direct you to if I had any.
I think are not much.
Okay.
But I do have a deck that I made of all the things that Dr. Stern had.
Sure.
That puts on the actual video.
Is that the one that you sent this afternoon? You sent me a
I
lot.
just sent you
One. Okay.
I
So
just
our
sent you
concern
that.
is that, we wanted to showcase as much as we can, but like you have most of the live links within your board docs, but that is not necessarily something that we're sharing live with the community. So I can definitely follow up. So like we had talked about student confidentiality and making sure that if we were showcasing student work, that it would be accessible to board members, but not the general public. So, but yeah, I can forward those as well. So if any particular grade level. And so this group, the kindergarten first, second, and third are the individuals that in the district and the middle school as well, that have only hybrid students. And so at this point, the 4th and 5th grade was not part of this type of format. But, and then they're correct that I don't recall when it was, like maybe mid-September, we talked about when we started having students that were out for periods of time, that the other teachers had asked, could we have access to Google Classroom materials in order to push stuff out to our students so that we're not, and because you could have, several students out for numerous days. So it was beneficial that in this particular group of ladies here, were already doing that work and were willing to share that information and that work with those learners. And Erin's obviously doing the same thing at the middle school, but theirs looks different because it would actually transition, especially if they're going to be out for 24 days.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Aaron, I want to ask you something real quick.
Okay.
So the way you're doing it at the middle school, so your teachers are just hybrid? No, they're still teaching classes. Okay. And
They have a hybrid block.
What's that?
They have a hybrid block. Like they have a class where there's nobody there.
oh, okay.
Because they're,
I'll use Ben's team as an example. Saturday, there's 4 teachers on that team.
Yeah.
So basically, each of them have 2 free periods in addition to their win for them. So they actually have they have 2 6-minute periods and a 40-minute period in addition to their planning. That they're free, so they would be able to support their approximately 80 students that are in hybrid. So when they teach their in-school students or traditional students, they record that lesson. Some of them record both just so they have 2 lessons to make sure they upload it. Some of them want to edit it anyhow, and then they'll post it online.
And the kids, those hybrid kids can watch it anytime.
They can watch it anytime.
So they don't have to check in at any given time.
That's correct. They can get up at 10 o'clock each day, do some work at 10, do some work at 2, do some work at 6. And that's going back to the survey. That's what some of our students and our families are reporting in life.
Yeah. And how many kids do you have from the middle school? 6, 7, 8?
Total?
Yeah.
I think we're about 260, I think. I can't remember what it is now, but it's right around it. I think our highest at one point was 279. I think we're right around 260, 250. Maybe 254, actually. I can't remember. I know. I don't recall the slot.
255.
255.
Okay, and so one more thing. So what if you have a kid that signed up for hybrid and then just doesn't do it?
He's dropped
Mr.
us.
Taylor's been busy.
That's where the home visits come into.
Yeah.
When we have an experience, being completely transparent, there are some students who have elected to do hybrid and have struggled. So joint parent conference time, home visit, many phone calls. And that's actually where I think some of that time that they need, in the, not having all those kids in their teams, where in 8th grade, where we don't have teams, extra periods, they've done a lot of work really reaching out to the students, just trying to really support them. And that's probably where what's in that onboarding process really should be, just to help sort of not screen the students, but help educate them on who should be doing this and maybe who should be. Because when you can't get your, once again, I'd say can't get your hands on them, so we're not physically touching them.
No, I get what you
but
mean.
keeping them them after
No, I get,
school,
yeah.
you know, the 2:30 to 3 o'clock raise block, there's support times. We just don't have them if the student isn't advocating, which once again, students who struggle usually don't. We got to go get them a lot of times. That's where we're struggling. So.
Now, what about attendance? I said one more, but I like.
So attendance actually is going pretty well. Now, I know that from a district standpoint, we try to all be on the same point with that. So at this point in time, we are. That's once again sort of an education type of thing. And I hate to keep saying onboarding, but that's sort of, I think opportunity if we could have met in person every family versus just a phone call or email, it would have helped us with that. But that's going pretty well, at least for us in middle school.
So the kids have to check on every day. Shut up. They have to check on every day.
They have to log, at the middle school, they log on. They have to demonstrate that they can get into school with you. So do they have the internet? Can they log on to school with you for our Google Classroom, the elementary? And then they have to complete at least one of the assignments that at the middle school, and I think they're on the elementary doing somewhat the same, that we've deemed one of the assignments as their attendance assignment.
Oh, okay, I get it.
They've done that.
Okay, I get it.
A PD provided us some guidance, I guess recommendations, so that it was a chart that basically said that they could, if they would log on, they could be considered present. If they would log on and complete assignment, they would be present. If they would just complete an assignment, they were present. Like it was different scenarios. They gave us 4 different scenarios. So we've been working through that, recognizing that, you know, we want them to be attending daily and doing something or completing assignments daily. But, you know, that has been a work in progress as well. I just want to comment on, in reference to the conferences, and since I do have my principals and my teachers here, I'm understanding, at least I'm hearing that the virtual conferences went really well. And they actually had a higher attendance, and obviously you don't get behind because you have, so moving forward, I mean, this might be a new opportunity that you know, nothing replaces a one-on-one meeting, but I heard across the board that the attendance was better. They felt that time was more productive. People were more focused, you know, probably timely because, yes, Mrs. McGuire.
Probably the best comment that we got was actually from my PTO, and I had a parent on there that has a 4th grader this year. It's their third child to go through. And the mom actually teared up and said, "This is the first conference my husband has ever attended."
No.
Because somebody always had to stay home with kids. So didn't really think about that aspect,
right,
but
but that's
really part of the plan, but it was definitely a huge.
Silver lining.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's
Yeah.
benefit to a lot of this family.
Somebody else have a question?
So, you know, I guess originally we're looking at this as being a short-term thing, not thinking a lot of kids were going to do it. Given the numbers of what you're anticipating for 21, 22, just a guess, and I'd like Megan and Diane to answer too. What, and I know this is hard to clarify, but if you look at your job as 100% in a week, what percentage of time are you spending on cyber issues, cyber phone calls, like that type of thing? How much of your job is being taken up by all this?
So I would say that the first 4 or 5 weeks, I'd say at least 50% of it.
Okay.
That has decreased now. Now, once again, you know, I spent 3 hours doing home visits today with all the board, so those were all still hybrid students. So there are days where a large part of that is that, but it's definitely decreased now. And I think that's mostly because you just didn't have enough time to get all the things in place that you should have.
Right.
And that's no one's fault. It just was, COVID happened and you had to react to it. So now we're building our capacity for that, because the one thing we didn't share tonight, you know, from the middle school perspective, at least I'm sure the elementary done it, some of our teachers have built these, massive, like, parent websites that if you're a parent, you can't find an answer on there. It's not really because it's not there, it's just really stupid looking. So they're really being supported now. And I would say out of the gate, that was the case. But I'd say now maybe 20%, 25%. The good news is that our discipline in the building, for whatever reason, whether it's because some students are in Harvard or just because math and things like that, is significantly down. I mean, it's probably maybe half of it.
I mean, that's, yeah, I've been What about you guys at elementary?
I would agree. I mean, over the summer, I felt like I had 2 jobs, you know, well, really 3, because you're building something, selling something, and oh, by the way, I have to open the building too. And, you know, like Aaron said, there's a lot of people that, I guess, I assume that most of the parents in my building are about my age, and I make an assumption about tech skills that I'm learning is not an accurate assumption. So I definitely think we need to have some more parent engagement activities with that. The thing that I guess I'm struggling with is there are people that 2 years ago, I would have never ever recommended their child be an online learner, but I don't feel like it's my place to say whether or not a family's concern warrants not allowing them to be online. And so there's some struggles with that. So I think at this point, honestly, the kids that I have, I think they're probably going to stick with us. So I expect to have that number through the end of the year. And those of you that know me, I've made some predictions, and that hasn't come true. I've got over 45 kids in the Franklin Virtual Academy. I get a progress concern spreadsheet every week, and it's magenta if the child's not doing their work. Normally, when I get that spreadsheet on Fridays, it's all magenta. That spreadsheet has been white every single week since week 2. So I've never ever had that. Yeah, so it's different at the middle school. And I have some, you know, some unique pieces that are in the Franklin Virtual Academy because it was already done. You know, so I'm glad that we have that as an option for families too. So I've been pleasantly surprised with how things are going. It's definitely a challenge for teachers to learn new things. And I think these ladies did a remarkable job of commending that. I wrote down some things that I'd like to share with my teachers, so thank you for that. So yeah, I think at this point now we're pretty much settled. Emulating attendance from the middle school was a huge time saver for us. So I'm probably around 20%, if not less than that at this point.
Megan, how are you?
I would have to say that honestly, at the beginning of the year, if I'm putting it out there, 75 to 80% of my day, because Fairview has, I have one teacher K to 3 in each of those grades, so there's those 4, then my whole 4th grade team, my whole 5th grade team, plus other chapter for Summit View. So I had a significant portion of the elementary team. I was genuinely spending 75 to 80% of every day. I would say at this point, probably somewhere around 30 to 40% of the time. We still have about 128 kids that are in hybrid right now. So just based on sheer numbers, Mr. Jenkins deals more with the parent side and getting kids in and out. And I deal more with the teacher side and the tech side and trying to support that kind of situation from the instructional side of what's going on. So the teaming for that is working. But it is because of our sheer number of people involved. Our time is still a little higher.
Thank you.
I will say, Lydia, one thing we need to do is we need to educate the parents, though, this is one of my concerns, is that completing assignments is not necessarily one. That is one of my concerns, that some of our parents are thinking, well, he went on and did all the school with the assignments, so he or she learned that day, and that is a concern. So I think that may be something that the classroom.
Yes. That's
Why we
always.
went from student to learner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have one more question for Shmay and Heather and Mary. So, you know, like it's almost like being a first year teacher in some ways, because you're like basically starting over again, and everybody knows what your first year teaching's like. Do you think if you stay with this, like next year and you build on it, it's going to be easier? Any of you?
Right now, as we go, we are building for 4 that we've done. And all these other ideas I would love, but it takes all day to make all day lessons.
They do have priority. We're going to talk about priority standards.
Okay.
I agree with that. I think, and I feel sometimes for kindergarten, that it's very taping intensive. I can't go always out on YouTube, and I used to do that for some things, but it's very, very taping intensive. So, you know, I'm taping certain things that I kind of have to tape. Like I can't, and
don't, nor do I have. But, you know, I have to make those things. So if it's, you know, me getting sound or whatever, I'm taping sound or doing the concepts of now phonics that the other teachers are doing, but I'm taking that lesson. So it just, that's very intensive. But once I build up all of those lessons,
Mhm.
then it, yeah, I think it would be a lot easier from that standpoint next year. And then you can just tweak and like, oh no, let's do
Tweak and
it
go.
differently.
Mhm.
But you still you have all of those things to sort of plug in, and you don't, it's just not, it wouldn't be as intense.
So all three of you like this?
I did.
Yeah?
And I was not a tech person.
Certified person.
No, it's not that. I like to work with the students, and I think as soon as I started small groups, which was a little overwhelming at first because I probably wasn't quite ready to start them, I felt like a little piece of my teaching heart was like restored. I missed like having interaction with students. So when I added on small groups, it's been better. And I can honestly say, you know, I was actually just thinking about this like yesterday, that I feel like it's almost like I'm in the classroom, you know, working between the two screens now too. Because like the Go Guardian, I'm like, it would be me walking around at their desk, and I can be like, no, that's not right, and I call them and I can fix it right away.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of neat to see how it does kind of feel like the classroom now, but in the very beginning, I was missing the interaction. So as soon as I started calling those live sessions and using Go Guardian more and actually having time to check in with students, because I have 22 students, not 40 like I did, that has helped a lot. So it's been a lot more manageable, and it does kind of feel like the classroom now. So 22 kids, sure, I would do it again, but 40, I don't know. That was too much. So
I think the learning curve for all of the technology and all of the best ways to reach these kids, because these are phenomenal teachers that are now becoming phenomenal cyber teachers, you know, and none of them are okay with, I can't tell you how many conversations about like, it's okay to just be like good enough. No, it's not. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I work with Shimei, I know.
Like I'm in there,
I
like,
get
I'm going to kill the internet to the whole building right now. Don't go home.
Excuse me, I did just get an email from somebody watching that if anybody in the audience could step up to the podium so they could hear you. That is talking.
Okay. Nothing else. Thank you very much again. We very much appreciate it and appreciate you and what you're doing.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And I believe these people need a round of applause.
Can we also excuse them?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay, and that leads us to the next item, which is going to be an executive session. So we'll stay if people who are remaining could step out for a little while, that'd be great. We appreciate that. Okay, we're back. And the first item under business where we are now would be the student waiver. Dr. Sternheim.
Okay, recommendation is to approve the student waiver as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Personnel, Dr. Sternerheim.
I'd like to direct your attention to numerous personnel items in your board docs. We have recommendation of professional staff. We have a resignation support staff, appointments of support staff, an additional recommendation for a long-term sub-professional staff. We had to make a correction on a professional staff that was approved in a prior meeting. And then we also have resignation of support staff, temporary appointments, transfer support staff, change of positions, several additional appointments of support staff, several additions of support staff, change of hours, appointments of game personnel, substitute support staff, and then several requests for leave. Recommendation is to approve as listed.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Questions for Dr. Sternheim? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, thank you. On to bus drivers, Mr. Holtzman.
Yes, ma'am. We have 2 drivers for your consideration, 1 for each bus line. They've met the requirements and criteria to be drivers for the district. And as always, we ask for the board's approval for new drivers.
Okay, and we have a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions for Mr. Holtzman? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, get back to my docs. I lost it. Policies. Okay, policies, and that's
That's me.
Dr. Klein.
Okay, we have 5 policies that the policy committee had worked on, and they recommended moving them forward to the board. And as you know now, they were in front of the board, I think, once, so we're at the second reading. The trauma-informed approach, and you can see educational trips, that went through a lot of work. I think Mrs. Sullivan can attest to that.
Yeah,
And
certainly did.
live stream video, trying to get that in place as we move forward with our different options of learning. And then management of the pandemic, that's something that you'll see more pandemic policies coming along the road here in the next couple of months. And then volunteers, made some adjustments with the volunteers.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
Yes, I have a question about educational trips.
Okay.
Under makeup work, which is close to the end, it says in the case of an approved educational trip, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then it says, after a student's return, makeup work must be submitted within a time frame equivalent to the number of school days approved for the trip. So it says after a student's return, i.e. for a 2-day trip, 4 school days will be granted for makeup work. So
Right,
I
that
thought it was
doesn't
supposed to be
make sense.
equivalent.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 + 2?
No, that it says after a student's
Okay.
return.
Yes,
Yeah.
that may be a typo, isn't it?
No. Yeah, which in my class, I mean, they would have been way far behind. I mean, seriously.
Yep.
So that's why it just didn't make sense to me that, yeah. Okay.
We have run this one by, I think, every principal. Right? Yeah.
With his bag, take his your bag.
So we're just trying to make it consistent so that teachers don't put one policy to another. We're just trying to make it consistent.
And it should be consistent, yes.
Other questions?
Yeah. And we still do try to get the work before. Still try to get the work before it.
Yes.
We know these are going to happen, so we try to push that out. Now with what we're doing online, that's all.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, if not, all those in favor of approving these policies, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Sidewalk repair, Mr. Holtzman.
Yes, ma'am. As you notice, for quite a while, we've had some blocked off sidewalk area in front of the building on the 3rd Street side. And then we have a couple slabs around the sidewalk. Of course, we have the sidewalk starting all the way on 3rd Street, running around to Clayton. And we have about 3 major sections on there that have significant cracks and have settled in different directions. We'd like to go ahead and get permission to go ahead and replace those areas. We did receive 3 quotes. The lowest quote was for J&M Concrete at $6,725. And I think we have some pictures in there as well.
Did that include the slab, the extra slab they said?
when you first sent it out?
Yeah, there's a potential that we might have another slab that we would have to replace, but that does not include that extra slab at this point. So we're hoping that they don't have to replace another slab, but you never know. With construction, once they get underneath and see a base or they're repairing the curb, there's always a chance. One of the areas they're going to actually prop up the existing and try to replace the curb area and then put it back down and hoping it works okay.
Any other questions? Are we reaching the point where you can't do concrete work because of the cold temperatures, or is that?
It's getting closer. Yeah,
Okay.
you're right. Yeah. We normally would bring this to the facilities committee, but we just received the quotes last week and we didn't want to wait until November to come back to the facilities committee because then it would have been too late this year.
Okay. So we'll try to get it done if it passes.
Right.
Okay, any other
Good question.
questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve those? Or
So
not?
moved.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, financials, Mr. Holtzman.
Oh, no, wait. There's
Oh,
still an
oh,
additional-
Mr. Lawyer, I missed the calendar, sorry. Okay, addition of a remote day.
You
Dr.
wanna-
Sternheim.
Sure, I can do that. So what we are asking for is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving was already scheduled for an early dismissal day. We are going to request that be a remote learning day. The teachers will still be here. There will still be assignments, but we were also hoping, especially for special education teachers, to be able to utilize some of that time for some additional professional development. Again, we have every intention of remaining here in school, but as much time as we can have to prepare regular ed as well as special ed, if we would have to go to a virtual setting, any type of professional development time would be greatly appreciated. So we were going to request that as a remote learning day. It's still a half day, but then that way it would be a mix of obviously connecting with our students or learners during that day, as well as providing teachers additional professional development time.
Is that the only?
We had also discussed possibility of adding the early dismissal day of December 23rd was also a half day, but I believe when we discussed it, you said you wanted to see how it worked out the first day and move forward with that then.
Questions?
Yeah, I have a question. This used to happen all the time with Easter vacation being eaten up by snow days. What about teachers that perhaps have made travel plans based on the previous calendar?
So the teachers were always working this day.
Half a day.
They're always working half a day.
So it's still a half a day.
It's still a half a day. Teachers are still working. Our learners will be learning from home.
All right.
So in other words, it's going to be a combination of whatever assignments that we're pushing out asynchronously, as well as time for some professional.
So it's a
development.
name change on the calendar and not an hours change.
That is absolutely, it is just a difference of applying to the state for an additional remote learning day.
Okay.
Yeah, if you guys approve it, we have to take the minutes and, I've already filled out the application, it's ready to go, and I want to also say, we have discussed the day before the, winter break, the Christmas holiday, plus looking at the snow makeup days, but we're looking at it one little piece at a time. The more face-to-face days we can get, I think the better, but now that we have a quarter in this week, a little more, I feel a little better about giving away some of those days, because I'll be honest, I wouldn't have given much to think that we're going to be here 2 weeks.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that information.
The clarification, that is a half day. The teachers will also be here a half day.
Before it was an early dismissal for teachers.
It still is. It's an
That's
early
like you're only
dismissal
gonna
for
have half the
teachers and
time
an early
teaching and
dismissal
half the
for
time.
learners.
So half the time for instruction and half the time for professional development. No?
For that, in the half day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Half day.
So teachers are working half a day or an early dismissal day?
They're working at half. They would be dismissed.
Whatever our early dismissals are half days, right?
Right, their day would be the same hours as they already planned on. It's just what they do.
Yeah, so it'd be, like dismissal be 11:50 for secondary and 12:50, like so.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to
Are the
clarify.
teachers working their contractual day before Thanksgiving?
I think
No.
So
the intent was still that we had that half-day dismissal for everyone.
So they
That
would
was my-
still like, let's pretend if our learners were, and whenever we would have left, when our learners were there, that's what time secondary would leave and that's what time elementary would leave. I know, but we're gonna have to adjust the schedule. We'll work on it. Like, it's not gonna be your typical remote learning day. It's going to be a modified remote learning day and giving certain select, maybe groups of individuals within the district, the opportunity for some professional development. I had to get this approved before I could tell you what we're doing. Okay?
All right, so again, all secondary teachers are finished with professional duties at 11:55.
Yeah, I mean, I thought was the intent.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah. Yes.
11:50, when dismissal is like
Ish.
11:55-ish,
Yeah.
or like 12 o'clock, and then
Right.
elementary be 1.
All right.
So it's like an early dismissal, but we don't have learners in front of us.
Right.
They're learning remotely that day.
It's the same as what it was on the calendar before and what we've done in the last couple of years.
All right, and I'm sorry for the confusion, but.
No, that's okay. I'll be
Obviously,
specific.
obviously, you have no further questions.
No, I would ask the same thing.
Right, okay.
No, I mean, it was already on the established calendar as an early dismissal day, and I believe you were asking because you were concerned that it was gonna be a full day, and then we would have people saying, well, I already scheduled a vacation.
So, okay.
He's gonna talk.
Mrs. Sullivan has a question.
No, you're not. You're not.
Okay, so we're voting on this. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now, Mr. Holtzman.
Yes, ma'am. For your discussion and your action, we have bills for payment and purchase orders there. We did get that right with the split between the summary and the detail and checks this time. We also then have a budget and income report that we typically provide for the second board meeting of each month. And then we also have one property assessment change. This is for disabled veteran status, and that goes through the county and state for that approval process.
Questions for Mr. Holtzman? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, no one has any questions, then we'll take a vote. All those in favor of accepting financials, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, you.
Would you speak up?
Sure.
Okay, of the budget. And we moved that to 2:30, right? Okay. Okay, we just voted for that. Okay, on to informational items, plate and cabinet. Okay, board member, or anybody else, I'm sorry. Mr. Holtzman or Dr. Sternheim,
No, ma'am.
anything for comments? No. Okay, board comments.
Yes. This is a good one. Okay, a lot of times we don't have the second meeting in November. In fact, most of the time we don't have the second meeting in November. And I would like to suggest that we skip that meeting because then the next week we come back for reorganization.
And that's
Okay,
usually our only board.
Do a meeting if we need for reorganization.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's the
Okay,
10th
good
and
with that?
1st. Yes. The 10th and 1st. November 10th.
What else on?
We
Yeah, I
just
think we
kept it in.
advertised it, right?
Okay, we'll have to take a vote on that because it's advertised.
Yeah, why, if something comes up, then we've got to re-advertise and spend more money. We just. Okay. No, I
So the
mean,
meeting would be on the 10th, and then the following week would be December 1st.
First.
Okay,
It's right after Thanksgiving.
okay.
so are we good with that, everybody? All right, do we have a motion to not have that meeting then from somebody?
And we can actually just put it on the door that, you know, that we aren't having, except we add one, we have to pay for it.
Yeah, that's what I was getting.
So do
at.
we still have to vote on this?
I would.
Okay. Do we have a motion to eliminate that?
Can I make the motion?
Sure.
Okay. I make the motion to eliminate the second meeting in November like we usually do.
Second,
Second.
anybody else comment? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Anything else from board member comments? Okay, if not, public comment? Okay, so we will be adjourning. I do not believe we're going to do anything else with executive, so that'll be it. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.